I hope you had a wonderful holiday. It is there's so many things to catch up on. I tried to keep the few days before and around Christmas light and didn't publish a whole lot, but there was so much that went on that I'm going to have to play some catch up here over the next few days. So I'll probably be posting a lot of videos in the coming days just because there's so much I wanted to talk about. One thing I wanted to talk about in this particular post is going to be about an article in a tablet magazine called Rapid Onset Political Enlightenment. If you have not read this article, I would suggest that you give it a read. Written by Daniel Sam David Samuel. Sorry. Uh, this article pretty much explains to you the insanity of the last 15 or so years, the abject and absolute insanity and disconnect from reality within media circles, and the propaganda machine that came about through the Obama years. A little before and through them, and up until very recently, Trump tore it down. I mean, at this point, as you can see, and how it was destroyed. Trump destroyed this machine, but this machine existed, and pretty much it's a long article. It really is, but it is a well worth reading. Uh, Basically, it talks about how they set up a system using um, social media to create realities. Right? They would just overwhelm the press, overwhelm the legacy press by creating a vacuum, an echo chamber, where they would create experts, quote unquote, that would just be validated by other quote unquote experts within the social media environ, and spew out whatever garbage they wanted and use that to influence the mainstream media and make it look like this was really where reality was and where people were, inventing terms, inventing reality. Um, just absolutely explains everything we've been dealing with for the last 15 or so years. And um, it is long. It is very very long, but it is absolutely worth the root. I mean, here's one of the quotes I thought was awesome. This is kind of with Hillary Clinton's loss, Obama's now the de facto leader of the party. He's out. He's not in the presidency, but he's out. He's the leader of the Democratic Party, and the things they did, right, using this machine to basically attack Trump and everything else. They just used it. For example, the Hunter Biden laptop story, which, you know, 51 former high U.S. government officials and security officials signed a letter, all but declared the laptop be fake and part of Russian disinformation, when most of those officials had very strong reason to know or believe the laptop's contents are real. Showed exactly how this system worked because they had control of the narrative. They would create this garbage and just throw it out there, and the mainstream media would just suck it up. They would just repeat it. It was insanity. Um, See, and then this letter, right, that they published was then used to restricting and banning fax reports from all these digital platforms. If you were around, you can recall Facebook, Twitter, these places would ban you for speaking the truth. They did the same thing during COVID. They used this same model during COVID. They would literally ban you for telling the truth because they would create these panel of crazies that would just say whatever, and then it would influence the media, and the media would bite into it, and then boom. And now he talks about how they used it during COVID and how they used it in the Justice Department and all kinds of other stuff. Um, see, during the Trump years, Obama used the tools of digital age to craft an entirely new type of power center for himself, one that revolved around his unique position as the titular, though pointedly never named, head of the Democratic Party that he succeeded in refashioning in his own image. Here we go. It's nothing accidental, mystical, or like here have these phrases that have come about in the last 15 years that we never heard of before. Defunding the police, structural racism, white privilege, children don't belong in cages, assigned gender, stop the genocide. All this, right? These are all examples of this machine they created, um, to basically, which is pure, flat out propaganda. I would recommend this. I'll put a link in the comments below so you can read yourself. Like I said, it is a relatively long article. This is not short. This takes some very long processing. But if you want to understand why we have had to deal with the insanity of the last 15 years, this article explains how they did it and what they did. It basically confirms you've been lied to. You've been lied to and lied to and lied to again. And it explains why it happened. Not all of why it happened. There is bias, completely biased media as well. Um, I would definitely suggest this reading for anyone that wants to actually kind of semi understand. This is a New York Times. It's a guy that wrote for the New York Times Magazine. This is not some right wing wackadoo far right extremist here that wrote this article. Okay, so I really think it's worth reading. It is a long thing. Twitter being bought by Elon Musk was kind of the beginning of the end of this. Thank goodness, because he tore this down. He talks about when it starts to collapse. So Twitter buying out, being bought by Elon was probably one of the single greatest days for free speech and fair information distribution in the digital age that I can think of. Which is why the left went absolutely insane when Elon bought it out. If you remember, they went absolutely insane when they found out that Elon Musk was buying Twitter. It made no sense. Oh, it's going to be gone in a year, yada, yada, yada. And it turns out, studies have shown, Twitter is probably the most middle of the road now social media platform out there. It really is about 50-50. Although they try to pretend it's not. It's also like, oh, it's a right-wing propaganda. And actually, the studies shown Twitter's or now X is probably the most even-handed social media platform out there. So, like I said, it is a long read, as you can see. It's not short, but it is a lot to take in, and I think everyone would be better off in this audience if they did read it. But basically, the key thing I want to tell you is, yes, you've been lied to for 4 years. They created a system to promote lies, to create reality, basically a purely propaganda machine. They leveraged it, and they have been leveraging it for about 15 years. And Trump and Elon have crushed it. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. It's a much longer article, obviously. But it is now a dung heap, and it is shown to be the dung heap. So you haven't been crazy the last 15 years. The world's been crazy. They've been lying to you. You've been honest. If you have had to shake your head every time, knowing you were being lied to, knowing the crap they were feeding you was total bunk, and it made no sense. Yeah, you weren't the crazy one. You were seeing reality. Everybody else was swallowing the garbage that these people were intentionally putting out there to create the reality they wanted. Or in other words, propaganda. So, hey guys, I'll put a link in the description. I would suggest it is a strong read, but I would suggest everybody reading it and sharing with all your friends that have any political interest at all, if they haven't already read this article. It's a great read, and it explains so much of what's happened in the last 15 or so years. All right, guys, have a great one. I'm out.